Hello and good evening. Welcome to today's shir. Likutey Moharan. Torah Chaf Zayin 27. It's one of those opaque Torahs that I mean, there are like 4 or 5 moving parts, as it were, that make up the principal structure of this teaching. But it's very easy when you look at it to understand that Rabbeinu is actually embedding a very almost impossibly profound Torah mysteries in principles that seem to be, I wouldn't say this the word artificially, but they seem to be very loosely tied together, through different kind of Mora Makaimis and Bechinas and so forth and so on. But the Torah itself is it's almost like watching the face of an old-fashioned watch before the telephones and everything raised its ugly head. On the face of the watch, you have basically 2 or 3 hands, one of them running, full circle in 60 seconds, one of them running a circle in 1 hour, and then another hand that runs a circle in 12 hours. It looks pretty simple. But when you take a look under the hood of the watch, and you see the kind of gears and pulleys and springs, that are involved in making that seemingly simple kind of reality be seen, and therefore you can say, yeah, I'm late or I'm early, or this Torah is very much reminiscent of this. I mean, the truth of the matter is it's even hard to tell the time. In other words, it's hard to read the quote unquote pshat of the Torah and to understand what's about, how much more so, the inner mechanism that is behind it. Basically, I mean, we will be, in Mitzvah Shem, we'll be learning Seif Zayin, number 7, but, to put it all together, we said it after Tikkun Abris, a person is Zoicha, when a person is sanctified, with Tikkun Abris, a person is Zoicha to explain, explore, and understand what is the divine meaning in the Torah, while using the Yud Gimel Midos, the 13 codes, as it were, that the Torah can be explained in them, Now, the 13 codes themselves are also the face of the clock, and under the hood, the thing that drives these 13 codes is the 13 midos of rachamim, of compassion, which are by far the most ineffable concepts that typify the level of arich anpin, of the highest of all bechinas, spheres of Kesser, where the Kodesh Baruch Hu, when you put this into play, you are basically like short-circuiting, or rather, no, it's not short-circuiting, that's not the right way, but there are all kinds. There used to be, I don't know, maybe there still are, there used to be these computer games that you used to go from one state to the next. You kill all kinds of monsters, whatever it is, and you go from one state to the next, to the next. And in all those games, there used to be something that was called quote unquote cheats. That if you knew them at a certain level 5, if you capture the mushroom, whatever it is, it will lead you to, whatever, you know what I mean. So creation was created in such a way that the the omnipotent control and freedom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to act in the Bria as he pleases is quote unquote held check by HaKadosh Baruch Hu's own rule, that he wants this world to arrive at a pre-designated goal where we get to know him. This is the tachlis, okay? Now, in order to enable the tachlis, what do you do when you want an animal to follow a certain path? What you do is you put blinders, on the side of the head of the horse, whatever it is, so it doesn't see things from the right or from the left. All it can see is straightforward. In the olden days, when they used to in the 19th century, they used to have coal mines. Now the coal mines, like in England, Lancashire, would be almost like a mile deep, and the miners would be working over there, breaking coal off the seam, and they will put all the coal in wagons that ran on rails, and these wagons would be pulled by ponies because the tunnels were very small, so you couldn't use big horses. So they used ponies. In fact, it happens to be a fact. They bought ponies from Scandinavia, a special breed that was both small and hardy and whatever it is. Thing is that the way to get down to the mine, almost like a mile deep, was through a lift. Now, the lifts those lifts basically used to fly down, almost like 60 miles an hour. These are the time when I don't know why I'm actually going through this thing, but nevertheless, they had, a steam motor that would bring up and down the the lift. Now, what happens is when you bring a pony down, I mean, the thing is that the animals will get terrified. You bring them down a hole. I mean, so what they used to do is they used to, and the entire story is just to come up to this conclusion. Excuse me for like going off on a tangent. Is you would cover the head of the animal, in a sack, and then the animal would calm down. And then you can tie up in winches and take it down to the mine. Birds, people have birds in the house. You want the bird to go to sleep. What do? You put a towel on top of the cage so the birds go to sleep. This is Midas Adin. Baruch Hu wanted to create the world in Midas Adin, which is blinders that, while it gives us the free choice to go, it basically forces us through the maze to get to the tachas of the world. It's an incredible balancing act. Now, they say HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the world Midas Adin, and he saw that the world cannot exist in by the trade of judgment alone. So he mixed in a medicum of compassion in order to enable the world to exist, in order to enable free choice to exist. This is, by the way, an important thing to know, because the Midas Malchus, which is basically all we talk about when we learn Likutey Moharan, ultimately with all the different kind of extremely exalted levels of spheres and so forth and so on, ultimately we're still talking about the ascension, the elevation of the Malchus, which is the lowest bechina, the lowest level here in this world. Now, the Malchus, as any authority anywhere, acts has two purposes. One of them is to take care of the population, take care of services, take care of transportation, take care of welfare, and so forth and so on. And on the other hand, it has another function to take care of law and order. Okay, so that level of when the Malchus is blessed, when it's connected to the Zerampin, which is the level above it, through the middle of the Yesod, then the Malchus is called Brecha, it's called a pool, it's called, this is all well the Shefa. The welfare comes in, the health systems come in, the transportation is the way to run, is the way it's supposed to be, the economy is run properly. This is when the Malchus is connected to a Seichel Amiti. Now, the Malchus also has the function of Din, Dina de Malchus, a Dina. The judgment of a Malchus is a judgment that cannot be swayed. It must have that. This particular Malchus, this particular attribute of the Malchus is called Tchelas. When we are wearing tzitzis, on the tzitzis we put a single strand of Tchelas. Tchelas, the Zos Kodesh says, he says Tchelas, it says Melishon Kilui, it means eradication. This is the ability of the Malchus to have blunt force, violent force. It's a fire. It says the achli kola, the shatzi kola, that eats everything and annihilates everything. What does it mean? That eats and annihilates everything. It eats and annihilates anything which is not advancing towards the tachlis. That's what's called tchelis. The tchelis is intended to cut off any kind of branches, any kind of tangents that take you away from the storyline, as it were. You know, you're supposed to get to the tachlis. This is where the particular nikuda is. We will meet that particular concept a little bit later on. But there is a way, and this is now we're coming back to what I started saying, there is a way of invoking the supernatural nature, as it were, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu within the creation. That was the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, particularly Dafka after the Chet HaEgel. Because the sin of the golden calf was such a horrible infraction that took place after the holiest matrimony of Am Yisrael and Kadosh Baruch Hu. As the Medrash says, how wretched is a bride that was unfaithful under her chuppah, this is what the Chet HaEgel represents. But the divine kavana of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that particular thing is that Am Yisrael will do, what they will do, because there was such a huge exposure to Chesed that the Yetzer Hara got them to the point where they fell to the lowest madrega possible. The Malachim said, don't create men because this is what's going to happen. The Baruch Hu knew just as well as they did, this is what's going to happen. But what the Malachim did not understand, which Moshe Rabbeinu did, is that there's a purpose. There's a divine purpose to why this took place. Because it's only when Am Yisrael got to such a very, very low level, where it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Under the normal rules of creation, there's no way that you can forgive the sin of the golden calf. That was when Moshe Rabbeinu understood, this is what Moshe Rabbeinu understood, that everything that Kadosh Baruch Hu does is a tova. Everything that Kadosh Baruch Hu does is in order to reveal a much higher level of compassion and love than ever before. The Malachim could not understand that. I mean, how can you? It dafka takes the tzaddik. Moshe Rabbeinu understood that the world was created for a purpose, for us to get close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if Am Yisrael got down to such a level where that's it, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm finishing it off, that's it. Chas v'chalila. That there is a divine kavana that is therefore possible in this particular dafka there to expose the highest expression of compassion and love that otherwise is not possible. There is no pardon unless there is a capital punishment. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu pardoned Am Yisrael, he revealed the 13 traits of Rachamim. That is what we say on Yom Kippur, Hashem, Kel, all the slichas, Yud Gimel, Midah Shel Rachamim, Hashem, Kel Racham, V'chonu, Nerech, Hapam, Chesed, Ve'emes. These are the 13 channels of overriding levels of Rachamim that nothing can supersede. As when HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed these 13 traits of Rachamim to Moshe Rabbeinu, he said, "V'chanoti es asher achon," and I shall pardon that who I will pardon. V'richamti es asher arachem, kel rachom v'chanu. I will have compassion, whoever it is that I choose to have compassion, and I will have, and I will pardon whoever it is that I will have a will to pardon. One end, it sounds like, don't fool around with me. This is not, I'm not your, soda dispenser, this Coca-Cola machine, put a quarter in and you get a can of Coke out. This is not an automatic system. Whoever I want, I shall have compassion on. Whoever it is that I decide to pardon, I will pardon. Don't fool around with me. On the other hand, there's another message there. And the message is, I can pardon and have compassion on anyone I choose, regardless the size of the infraction. You should never, ever lose hope. And these ineffable, hardly differentiated 13 midas of Rachamim are the 13 eternal spiritual principles that are behind or underneath the hood, the face of the clock, and on the outside, in this world, the Nigla, there are the 13 codes with which the Torah is being analyzed and learned and understood. And it is when through the dealing with, when a person is clean, morally clean, specifically, he is zeicha to darshans, is zeicha to manipulate, to understand, and to operate the 13 midas that you can understand the Torah through. And when you do that, you draw upon yourself a very special state of existence, which is called hadras panim, a glowing of the face, which means it's a revelation of Kiviyachol, the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person is able to do that, a person is zoicha to a purification of his voice. The voice is a higher level than speech. Speech is the last level that actually reveals what it is that we are thinking. Words give meaning. They define the thoughts that are coming from your head. On the other hand, there is a quality to the voice, which is, on one hand, much more simplified. A voice is just, that's just a sound. On the other hand, it's the music of your words. And we all know that it is the music of your words that ultimately influences one way or the other whoever it is you're talking to. There are probably infinite ways to say, where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? Oh, where have you been? Yeah, I'll give you just 3 ways of saying, where have you been? 3 types of nigun. Where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been? One of them is accusatory. The other one is curious. And the third one is one of pleasant surprise. Ah, how wonderful to see you. Exactly the same words. 3 different nigunim. The Rebbe says in Torah Ches Chelek Sheni, which is the last Torah that Rabbeinu said during his lifetime, that admonishment, to accept admonishment, positively, is only possible when that admonishment is being said with the proper voice. And you would think that it's not a psychological trick of saying it. Obviously, yes, you have to control the sound of how you say things, but it is the tikkun of the call. So when a person is zoicha to dashen the Torah with 13 midas sherachamim, he is zoicha through that to the purification of the voice of his melody. When a person does that, a person is zoicha to shalom. We said the whole idea, what we wanted to, is we wanted to get everybody in the world together to serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu when one helps the other. One helps the other when there's friendship there, when there's peace there. So he says, when a person is zeicha to a tikkun of his voice, and the tikkun of his voice is when he's actually getting hadras panim, a grandeur of face, the highest level there is, then his voice, his melody is proper. Then the voice comes out as, oh, where have you been? Oh, I haven't seen you in ages. The kind of melody that produces shalom, that calls people to serve a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And this is how, when you have this kind of voice, which comes from this kind of grandeur, exposure of the grandeur of the Panim, which comes from Dashan the Torah and 13 meters of the Torah is Nidreshes Behem, which depends on your moral purity, then you can call everybody to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is, we said that the Rebbe brings, this Indian of when the bris is exposed, the shalom is exposed. Zeh keli banveu. Zeh perush we have. This is before Siman Ches. Zeh perush roeh zoyneis ya'abed hoin. A shepherd of prostitutes will lose a fortune. The Rebbe says here, fortune hon is b'chinas kol. Is a bechina of kol. Where do we find that the fortune and the melody are one and the same? Moshe Chazal said, kabed es Hashem mehoinecho, honor HaKadosh Baruch Hu from your wealth, from your money, from your stash. Al tikra mehoinecha. Chazal said, no, it says, ela migronecha, from your throat, which means from the music of your speech. The Psikta says, Rashi says it, and so forth and so on. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you a beautiful voice, give it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a present. When a person, is damaging his Osbris Kodesh, nifgam koiloi, his voice is being pogum. Roa Zayin is somebody who shepherds prostitutes. In other words, somebody who is involved in spiritual immorality automatically damages the purity of his melody. The Yaakov sheshama bris, so Yaakov that was shomer bris, as it says to Reuven, Reishis Oini. Reuven was the first drop to have ever come out of Yaakov Avinu. He has never ever had an emission in his life. He got married at the age of 80, okay, which means that's why he was Zoicha to Hadras Ponim. That's why Yaakov was Zoicha to Pchinas Kol. He was totally perfect in the Tikkun Habris. He is Zoicha to the Kol. As we know, we said that HaKol, Kol Yaakov. The Kol belongs to Yaakov because the purity belongs to Yaakov. When did Yaakov get to Bechorah? Do you remember the episode of when Avram Avinu passes away? Yaakov Avinu is preparing a chili. Nezid Adoshim is preparing a stew, and Esav comes from the field, and Esav says, "Feed me from this red stuff of yours." Yaakov Avinu says, "Sell me your elder right, and I will give it to you." So he sells it to him. Rashi says, what happened in that particular day? That is the day that Esav went off the derech completely. That's the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu shortened the life of Avram Avinu by 5 years. So the Avram Avinu will not see his grandson, Esav, going off the derech. What did he do? He killed the nefesh, he killed Nimrod, and he cohabitated with an Ora Marasa, a betrothed girl, was married Lamais. The minute that Esav, was spoken with his morality, he lost the Bechorah. He lost the voice. The result of that is when Yitzchak felt him, he says, Hayadayim Yedei Esav, the hands are the hands of Esav. But the call, the voice is a call Yaakov. The call belongs to Yaakov because the purity belongs to Yaakov. The moral purity belongs to Yaakov. And Mepchinas Kol, when a person is Zoicha to a Bechina of Kol, Zoicha l'Shalom. A person is Zoicha to peace, as we said before. If your melody in your speech is proper, you have peace with people. B'chinos Shir Hashirim, Asher l'Shlomo, the melody of melodies, the song of songs, that of Shalom. What is Shlomo? Chazal said, Melech Shashalom Shaloi. This is the song of songs of the Melech, to whom the peace belongs. As the Kodesh Baruch Hu, Shirim is the voice. Yazoicha, when you have that, Yazoicha to Shlomo, to Shalom. And for that reason, Techef Achal Kol Rina Shel Shir Sayam. I mean, Am Yisrael comes out of Yam Suf. This is a total breakage from reality the way it was before. Mitzrayim, slavery, whatever it is, everything finished, everything cracks down. All the order of nature cracks down. The 10 plagues, the sea splits into two. Everything, not only here in Gashmis, but also in Ruchnis and Shemaim, everything is split, everything is open, everything is the nature of existence is exposed. The automatic reaction is Am Yisrael comes out of Yam Suf is they are singing. This is Shir Sayam. The voice is, we said, the split of Yam Suf, if you remember, is due to the fact that the coffin of Yosef, Ayam Rahav Ayanos, the sea saw and ran away. What did the sea, what did it envision? What is the sight that made the sea go away? He saw the coffin of Yosef. Upon him, it is said that when his mistress wanted him, he says, Vayanos, and he ran, he escaped and left his clothing with her. The one that Shmir Sabris, the sea saw the Shmir Sabris of Yosef and split. And the result of Shmir Sabris, Yosef, the splitting of the sea, the result is song, Shir Sayam. This is the rectification of the melody. Am Yisrael was able to Shabbos Shalom. They came tomorrow. This is when they were ordered the mitzvah of Shabbos for the first time. Moshe Kosov, V'yavo Marasa, and they came to the place called Mara. V'Shabbos b'Mara nitztava, and the mitzvah of Shabbos was given in the place of Mara, which was where the water were undrinkable. They were bitter, they were undrinkable. Like one of those salts, salt puddles, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, in the desert. There was, because it is through the purification of the voice, is to Shalom. And Shabbos is Shalom, Shabbos Shalom. So because of that, it says that this is why all this is encapsulated in the higher level of Remez, Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. So on the level of Sod of Remez, it says, V'zeh vata'an lahem Miriam shir Lashem. It came out, Am Yisrael says, shir Lashem ki ga'o ga'a, sus v'rachmo ramavayam. We say it every single day, and there's an answer. The answer is Miriam. Miriam, it says, vata'an lahem Miriam. Miriam answered them, shir Lashem. Vata'an lahem Miriam shiru Lashem is Rosh Tevis Shalom. It is through Shira, through the perfection of the melody, there was Zoicha to Shalom. This is up to the end of Seif Vav, and Bezat Hashem, next week we will proceed to Seif Zayin and understand why Dafka it is in Mara, in a bitter place, a place of bitter water. This is when we got the piece. We'll explain that. That has to do with the Tchelis that we explained before. Bezat Hashem, we will stop here. As you can tell, this is not an easy Torah. I mean, it has many inner workings, behind the scenes, under the hood, as it were. So Bezat Hashem, we will continue next week. Tomorrow, Mirz Hashem, in Breslov, we will continue to Lamed Ches. So I wish you, whoever will be with us, welcome. Whoever not, I wish you good Shabbos. Or Shabbos Bereshis is a tremendous thing. Shkoyach Gola for coming.